Welcome to the Advanced Licensing Podcast Series with CEO John Bellavy. Here, we unlock the power of licensing, showing you how to own a business, build wealth, and keep control without the limits of franchising or the risk of going it alone. John sits down with the leaders of today's most exciting companies to reveal how licensing turns opportunity into freedom for you and your family. This is your inside track to building the business of your future. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everyone, to the Advanced Licensing Podcast Series. Today, we have a special guest, one of our portfolio companies, Green Bin Cathy Ireland. And I want to introduce you the owner, CEO of Green Bin Cathy Ireland, Mr. Jeff Quincey.
Thanks, John.
How are you, sir?
Great to be here. I'm doing great. Yourself?
Oh, another fine day in paradise.
Amen.
If you would, give an overview on what Green Bin Cathy Ireland is and how you got started in the business, if you would.
So Green Bin Cathy Ireland is a affordable, eco-friendly alternative to cardboard boxes for both residential and commercial moves, as well as remodel jobs. So I actually purchased the business just a little over 5 years ago, back in 2020. And at the time, just one single location here in Phoenix, with the vision that we thought we had something we could take nationwide. However, we just didn't know how to do that, right? My only experience or knowledge was through franchising. We're very much a blue-collar company, delivering plastic totes to people's front doors. They pack, they move, and then we're picking them up at the new address when they're done. We're bringing them back to our warehouse and cleaning them for the next use. So very much blue-collar. So franchising wasn't the model that we wanted to go with. And we kind of sat on it for a couple of years, and then obviously got introduced to you and Larry with advanced licensing, and realized that licensing was the vehicle that could help us grow our company and take it nationwide.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about licensing and how that really fits into this green bin business. I mean, I know right now, Jeff, that the moving industry is booming, and in your experience, I mean, why is this the perfect time for someone to really launch a green bin business?
Yeah, many reasons. I'll just kind of key in on a couple of major ones. Right now, with household formations, you hear it in the news. There's a housing shortage, not just houses, but apartment buildings. That's why maybe in your neck of the woods, you're seeing houses and apartment complexes going up left and right. There's estimated 5 million units short in the United States, and that's because of household formations. Because of cost and affordability, you have kids living with their parents longer, and they're finally wanting to break away from the nest and get their own place. And with that is what's generating massive amounts of moves. We saw that, during COVID, with everybody kind of in lockdown. We still see people moving across the country. And you're seeing in the real estate market that's continuing even post-COVID. And in a high interest rate environment, you would think things would slow down. But what you're finding is people are adjusting for affordability. We have many here in Phoenix, many apartment customers that are moving every 6 months because they're taking the move-in special. At the end of the 6-month lease, they're moving to the next property that can give them a move-in special. So even on our rental clients, we're seeing excessive moves compared to in a stable environment. Somebody might stay in the same rental for 2-3 years, right? So,
right. No,
but that's the biggest reason. There's a lot of movement in real estate right now.
yeah, and it looks like we saw a nice bounce back in the housing market this past month. So, I've been very fortunate. I've put a lot of people in business for themselves. I mean, I often hear from entrepreneurs, they worry about overhead. And how does Green Bin give someone really a low cost, simple entry into the business ownership of Green Bin?
Absolutely, right. My number one focus that keeps me up at night is how do we keep our licensees' overhead costs as low as possible, so that the business can operate with cash flow very quickly. And there's a lot of options, right? I talked about warehouse space in Phoenix. We have licensees that are operating out of their garage initially, until they come up with that revenue that justifies moving into a warehouse space. So that's one way we can keep costs low. Of course, warehouse space, the cost of that is different across the country. We have people paying $1,200, $1,500 a month, and we have people paying $250. But keeping that cost down, and then your overhead, if you're an owner operator, you're running the day-to-day operations of the business, that can keep the cost down as well until you get to the point of being able to afford somebody. We've been fortunate here in Phoenix over the 5 years where we have found a really good driver that runs our day-to-day operations, all of our client communication, and we have bin cleaners that do all of our bin cleaning just to kind of segregate those two duties. So initially starting off, if you're running it, it's a great way to keep your overhead low. Our biggest overhead is going to be warehouse space and labor. So if you're knocking one of those off of your balance sheet, that's going to make you more profitable quicker.
Yeah, so you don't need a storefront, you don't need the overhead of a retail location, which again is very much appreciated. I know for somebody getting in business. If you would walk us through, Jeff, a green bin order, how it works from start to finish, and the simplicity that really is a game changer for owners.
Sure. Yeah. So the ordering and delivery and pickup, I'll kind of walk you through. That's all very simplified, all built through our online system. Clients, 50% of our clients right now find us through organic Google search, which is an important factor because for us to spend money on Google ads, it'd be very expensive. We end up being in the same field as moving companies with deep pockets. Think of your U-Hauls, your Penske's, and the budget, would never be there to do Google ads. So our organic SEO built into the website is fantastic. We've consistently seen 50% of our customers come through organically. They go online and book. I would say, as far as the phone ringing, that we get three common questions. How many bins do I need? Even though it's kind of spelled out right there in the website based on bedroom count, that's down to a science. How quickly can I get the bins? We set up our website here in Phoenix on a 2-day leg. You have the autonomy to set that up how you want. What we want to avoid is somebody calling at 6 o'clock expecting us to be there in an hour with some bins, right? So everything's done and booked right online seamlessly. And then we get that into our inventory management system on the back end. And we'll communicate. One of our biggest claims to fame, and you'll hear this as you come on board, part of our training, it seems so small, but it's a huge part of what's made us successful in Phoenix, is we reach out 1 to 2 days before delivery with a text message to the customer, based on their preference of morning, afternoon, evening. Hey, here's a 2-hour window that our schedule shows will be at your place. If they agree to that, then we let them know the day of. We'll give them a text with an ETA of our arrival. And my rule with my driver is not to send that text until he's ready to put the truck in drive and take off. So he puts the address in GPS, sends a text with an exact time of when we're going to be there. Seems so small, but that's exactly what probably the second most positive feedback we received from clients is they didn't have to sit around their house for 4 hours like most home services and wait for somebody to show up. Upon pickup, 1 to 2 days, again, we reach out asking if they're ready. Sometimes they need an extra week or two, and we charge them an extension fee for that. And the exact same thing, when we're en route to go pick those up, we send a text with our ETA and let them know exactly what time we're going to be there to pick those bins up. So that's pretty much start to finish. Very simple. It's something I harp on a lot, is we've kept the business very simple. Question we get a lot is how many different size boxes do we have? Not from customers. Prospective licensees ask that. And the answer is we have one size box, and we've gone round and round about, do we get different sizes? The problem is in 5 years, we've had 2 customers ask us, and we want to keep this business simple. That's the key.
Simplicity is, I think, new business owners getting into a business, they don't want to have to jump through hoops in order to own and operate a business. You did mention something very significant. 50% of your business comes from online searches. There's another 50%. Talk about Google and showing up on the search engines, how that's important to licensees. How do you get that? How do you make that happen? And where does the other business come from?
Yeah, so we'll just zeroing in on that 50% from Google. I probably don't do a good enough job explaining it and talking about it as often as I should, but I think a lot of people gloss over that, right? Initially, when we launch a location, we typically show up. If you just search moving boxes, we're going to show up somewhere around 6th or 7th on the website. And over the course of 3 to 6 months, you will see that ranking start getting into that first and second position. So that's all built into the website and how we have that built for SEO optimization, search engine optimization. We tested it. We had a client down in Tucson. We don't service Tucson from Phoenix. It's too far away. Potential licensee said, "That sounds great, Jeff, but I don't believe you." And then went silent for about 30 seconds. And I thought, well, where's this going? He went and Googled moving boxes Tucson. We don't even have a location there, and we ranked organically second in the list. So that just speaks volumes to how the website team is building that out and making sure that we're top of mind. The other 50% is 40% year in and year out is coming from repeat clients or referrals from past clients. So that's a huge word of mouth is a huge part of our business and why we stress so much those text messages and being on time. I tell my guys there's two things we can control: clean bins being delivered and being on time. If we start delivering dirty bins, we're going to lose customers. They're not going to talk favorably about us. If we're late, we're going to make people upset. We all live busy lives. We got to respect people's times. Those are the two things we can control in this business from a customer service standpoint. We do those two things, people are going to be raving about us.
Yeah, 5-star reviews, very important. But that's, when you talk about referrals, where do the referrals come from? Who do you work with on a referral basis?
Yeah, so the other referral separate of past clients is going to be apartment complexes, moving companies, and real estate agents. So those are our three biggest players that are in contact with people moving at all times. I'm just going to get ahead of it because I'm sure it's your next question. So with those three entities, if it's somebody that does a large volume of business in any one of those three industries, what I developed about a year ago to help us put those partners on the same side of the table as us is a rev share program, right? And it just encourages them to either through me or themselves train their staff to promote green bin, whether that person's using their service or not, because we're bringing extra income to their bottom line with no extra expense.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's powerful. I know, you covered the website. Each licensee gets a customized website, inventory management system, marketing slicks from the company, even vehicle branding. I know you have the design for vehicles, and they usually have it printed and installed in their local market. Talk about the inventory management system and how that became a need early on.
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, when we bought the business 5 years ago, the inventory was managed through a Google sheet. I still just shake my head at this, but the orders would come in. You'd wake up in the morning, open up a Google spreadsheet, update a couple dates on it, and then scroll down to the future. And if anything was in red, it meant that you didn't have bins to deliver. It was very reactive instead of proactive. So as I mentioned, we knew that we had something that we could take nationwide. The one thing that had to be fixed before we did that is an inventory management system. And it's something that's always evolving. Right now, we're just doing local moves as we build out our network and we have more locations across the country. We can start catering to those out-of-state moves as well. So that management system is ever evolving. But that was the number one thing. And when we got introduced to you, John, we had just finished building that out and testing it. And now it will not let a client book if there's no bins available during their rental period that they want. So that was all custom built from the ground up. Took us about a year to build and fine tune and a lot of money. And that's something that each licensee gets is that replicated website for their general or specific area and their own inventory management system for their location.
No, that makes for a very efficient business. Just that back end tracking is so important. I know I get the question a lot, as far as the average sale or rental. I mean, what's the average? And I know there's commercial businesses that you've helped move, but what's the profit margins on, the sale, or what's an average sale for renting?
Yeah, average sales price per customer is right at $247. I just looked the other day; it's nearing 250. But year in and year out, we're always right around that 247 per customer. As you alluded to, we have both residential and commercial. I would say that the residential is closer to about a $200 average. Commercial averages out to about $500 per order. In revenue, you mentioned profit margin. Profit margin's a tricky one, right? We have a lot of fixed overhead, insurance, warehouse, variable overhead such as labor. Are you doing the work or are you hiring somebody? So a lot of variables that go into that. And then there's the scalability. With your fixed overhead, if you're running 10 orders a month, your fixed overhead could be very expensive per order. But as those orders start ticking up into 30, 40, and 50 orders a month, your fixed overhead per order comes down significantly. So you're going to see out of the gate somewhere, if you're running the business yourself, somewhere profit margins per order around 40%. But I've modeled it out. As you grow, that can be as high as 80% profit margins.
They're strong profit margins. And I know that to your point, fixed cost, and I would imagine what your fixed cost in Phoenix is going to be different than the guy operating in Dallas or Arkansas. So when you talk about pricing, how do you work with the licensee to determine what they should be charging?
Yes. So some of the factors I take into account, and I just went through this exercise a few days ago with one of our new licensees, is I'm looking at gas prices. That's my first question. Gas prices, efficiency to get around your market, right? In Phoenix, as long as we're not driving during the 2 rush hours, we can pretty much get anywhere in 30 minutes and be pretty efficient. But you take my business and plop it in the middle of LA, you might get 2 miles in an hour, right? So gas price as well as gas consumption plays a huge factor into the variable cost on that. But then I'm gonna look at, where do you plan on housing the bins? What's your overhead for that? Are you using your garage initially? Which, by the way, just be prepared. If you're using your garage, you can. You have to park your cars outside. It's amazing how much space the bins take up, and you got to have a cleaning station set up as well. So we go over overhead costs specific to you. And that's the biggest determining factor on what we should do with pricing. However, with this new licensee, we look at area median income in the area for the customers that would be using the service. And that played a factor as well, right? Like average house prices, average median income. And that can justify a little bit of a higher price as well. So we help with that. We navigate that. We use our pricing here in Phoenix as a baseline, and then we adjust down or up accordingly from there. My biggest business rule of thumb is you can always go up. It's not hard to go down. It just makes it look bad, right?
Yep.
So I'd always rather start more conservative and then bump it up as traffic's coming through the door.
Sure. I know Green Bin, it isn't just a moving solution. It carries the Kathy Ireland brand. And I've gotten the question, where does Kathy Ireland fit in? So how does that name recognition help owners convert to more customers?
Sure. I'm going to start, before I answer your question, with just recommending, if anybody knows Kathy Ireland from her modeling days, go look her up, do a quick Google search of what's going on now. If you don't know who she is, Google her, right? Where it fits in is, you got Jeff Quincey, and my wife is essentially a silent partner. And I'm a nobody from nowhere, I always say, right? I don't want a title. I'm just a plain Jane normal guy. But Kathy's brand not only brings a wholesome feel to our brand, but gives us that name recognition and credibility, right? And then you add to it, and that was really the reason why I made the decision on that partnership. But what we've seen change is not necessarily maybe with our day-to-day customers, but when we are talking to the licensees, it is changing that perspective. Is we're still like, who is Jeff Quincey? Who is Green Bin? But there's some instant credibility there, and that's the biggest thing and reason why we did that partnership. Is if you look on that Google search, you're going to see that her brand is the #1 female licensor in the world. She knows the licensing game. So there's some credibility on the licensing side as well.
And plus, when you see the vehicle with her face there next to the logo, it turns heads and it gets noticed. So nothing wrong with that, right?
Right. It's a door opener. So
Yeah.
as a prospective licensee that's watching this, what I would say is, imagine you're trying to land, and this happened to us in the Sioux Falls market. You're trying to get a meeting with the largest real estate team that does 600 transactions a year in the state. And you reach out and say, I'm Bob Smith with Greenbin. Who are you? You're going to go through the gatekeeper. You're probably going to get shut down. But you call in instead and say, I'm Bob Smith with, the owner of the Sioux Falls Kathy Ireland Greenbin. All of a sudden they want the meeting for no other reason than to exactly how you propose the question. How did Kathy come into the picture? So it's a door opener
For
to
sure.
accounts,
No,
right?
that's awesome. So we talk about licensing, and for those who have been following the podcast, I did a segment on licensing versus the franchise model. So let's go through licensing and why you made that choice, licensing over franchising. I know you looked at franchising, but in your experience, what made you go the licensing route?
Yeah, for us, it was very straightforward. It's not a rocket science answer when you hear me say this, but I couldn't picture somebody opening a store somewhere in the country, going out, pounding the pavement, getting accounts, delivering and picking up bins. And then the not so fun part of our business is cleaning those bins and then turning around after all that hard work and having to send a 7 or a 10% royalty check back to corporate. That just didn't sit well with me. Add to that the fact that our average ticket price is 247 an order. And we start cutting into profit margins on that. So right out of the gate, I just knew that franchising, as I mentioned earlier, was not going to be the avenue. It couldn't. Would we make more money at the corporate level? Yes. Would it hinder our in this case, licensees from being financially successful? 100%. I think it would bootstrap people, and it's just not something that sat well with me. I had heard of licensing. There's a huge, if you guys have ever been to Phoenix, there's a huge donut place out here. I think they're up to 47 locations, Boza Donuts. They're the famous donuts here. And I found out maybe 5 years ago that they were licensing. First time I'd ever heard of it. Didn't I thought they were a franchise. But didn't even think of that applying to Green Bin until we got introduced to you guys, John.
Yeah.
And the light bulb just went off. This is the way to do it. Let people go out and earn whatever revenue they can make with their efforts and keep 100% of that.
And one thing I know, Jeff, that you really made the owner operator license affordable to just about anybody. Low entry level license fee gives an owner operator the ability to do business really anywhere they want. It only makes sense at this point if they're going to rent bins, they have to go out and pick them up. So it's got to be a radius that they can handle to do business. But I know we put together, and we've done this with other companies, levels of licensing where someone can get an exclusive license
Mhm.
for an area, whether it's a city or a county, could even be a state or a region, where they can get overrides on business, other owner operators in that area. I know you're very generous on that revenue share for licensees and different levels of licensees. Excuse me. So, um, if you would just talk a little bit about how licensing allows others to duplicate the success without reinventing the wheel.
Well, yeah, I think the main thing, like you talked about with the bigger level licenses, is can be as passive as somebody wants. I think that's something we have to circle back all the time and talk with people. So I want to mention that is when you purchase that state or that region, it really is passive and you can have as much involvement as you want, right? There's an extra commission payout if you do want to be active and bring people to the table and let us, bring them into the Green Bin family. But it's not necessary, right? We have a region owner right now, and they may see this and they'll know. They'll have no problem with me saying this. I get a text from them every month saying, God, we're just not good partners. And I have to remind them that when you purchase the region, it was 100% passive. It's up to you if you want to get involved and do anything there. But I think it's a duplicatable process when we get down out of those passive licenses and owner operators. And I'll always, you've heard me say this, John, on numerous calls. I'll be the first one to admit I'm not the smartest guy. But as we build this family out and have more people on the ground working, more brains bring more ideas. And I'm an open-minded guy. Like we have a couple of tactics that are being implemented right now that other people brought up. I had never even thought of, right? So I think there's power in the duplication and bringing more people in, and we feed off of each other. One thing we're losing right now, and I'll just give you an example for us right here in Phoenix, is we get calls routinely moving from Phoenix to Denver, or I'm moving my child up to college. and we have to say no to that order. So one of the biggest values of Greenbin when we get to that nationwide expansion is we can take any move anywhere. We don't have to turn a single order away, which means the entire network starts making more money on the ability to do that. I had a call a couple weeks ago, moving to Houston, and we had just opened Dallas. She said, "I'm moving to Texas," and I said, "Where?" And I just prayed she'd say Dallas. It would be our first, interstate move.
Oh,
But it was Houston, and we don't yet have Houston open. So I can't wait for the day that we say yes to everybody, and everybody benefits from that.
yeah, the U-Haul model, the one way or the rent a car when you do one way, everybody knows they pay a premium for that. So same thing with Greenbin. As the network grows, every owner operate benefits from that. And Jeff, for someone, can someone start part-time versus, all in from day one? I mean, how flexible is this model? And from your standpoint as the owner operator in Phoenix, how much time did you put into the business when you were in the full-time mortgage industry? I mean,
Yeah.
something that somebody can start part-time versus all in.
I think as an owner operator, the choice is yours. And we talk about this a lot on our prospect calls, right? People want to know, how much money can I make? And what's my answer? How hard are you going to work? Right? I'm up at 4:30 every day, and I usually shut down around 8 or 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. I don't know what somebody's work ethic is or their willingness, right? Like you said, they might want to come in part-time. So 100% work it as you want, right? If you're putting part-time hours into it, the one thing I'm going to caution you is don't expect full-time income. And that goes from any business. Anybody's going to tell you that. Put part-time hours in, you're going to not receive full-time income. Put full-time hours in, you'll eventually build something that can be completely passive for you and have employees running. So to answer your second question, how we started, it was very passive. The business had been started by a couple about a year and a half before we bought it. Not only through COVID, but some other reasonings, they wanted to sell it, and we came in and bought it. The orders were coming in. We were very passive. It wasn't until we started licensing with you that we started putting in the effort into the marketing, calling the moving companies, apartment complexes. So we've gone through exactly what we offer to owner operators from a part-time basis or passive. We started that way. And then the time freed up, the company started growing, and now we have the ability to not only from a time standpoint, but from a reputation standpoint, right? People are seeing, we're hearing customers here in Phoenix saying, "Oh my gosh, I remember when you only served us here. I'm looking at your map. You got 3 other locations. You got 5 or 6 others coming on board." So that just brings credibility to the product that they're using as well. So 100%, you start and run the business how you want, as fast or as slow as you want. Obviously, I'm an A-type personality. I want to move fast. And you know that from our conversations, John. But we can't dictate that. That's part of licensing. There's no quotas. There's no franchise overreaching arm that's going to come in and be like, "Hey, I know you're part-time, you haven't had any sales, but we're changing our whole logo. You guys spend 10 grand to fix everything." Like, that's not going to happen. So that's the beauty of licensing.
Fast and furious. I know you like to go on the fast track. Some people like slow and methodical, but I concur that fast and furious is the way to go. But I know you provide these licensees, these operators with a playbook on what to do, what has worked. And I would imagine you don't share what hasn't worked, but talk a little bit, just a few minutes about the playbook and what a
Yeah.
licensee gets and the support and the back end, and you being gracious with your time and going out to a location for a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'll say something. You made a comment as I retract to that in regards to not telling people what didn't work. I actually open book. I'll give you an example. We would never do TV advertising here. At 247 an order, TV advertising in Phoenix is thousands of dollars for a 30-second spot. But our Sioux Falls location called and had an opportunity to do 16 spots. It was $1,600. I said, "I can't even get one commercial for that. Do it, right? You'll make your money back." Here in Phoenix, it would be a loss leader. It would be some brand recognition. So I always say what doesn't work hasn't worked here in our market, but I'll encourage you, go for it and try it. Just don't be surprised if you get the same results, because every market's different,
Right.
right? In regards to the playbook, we give you from day zero until the day your inventory and website are the website's turned on and inventory arrives, what to do, what to buy, what you need to have a successful location. There are more recommendations on exactly how we operate our location. You don't have to take those recommendations, but we're trying to make your life easier and make your business more successful faster. So that's what the playbook is designed for, is to kind of, well, you're sitting there, inventory takes upwards of 45 days, website's about 30 days. So we usually have the website turned on, eligible to be booking 2 weeks out from that date for when the inventory arrives. So you can be actively marketing and trying to get those first orders in the door. But there's so much to do, things you don't think of: social media accounts, Google My Business page, which right now Google's making very hard, which is mind blowing to me that they would make it hard, because they would hope that they get your marketing dollars. They don't know we're not going to spend any marketing money with them, but they're making it very hard to get verified. So we have a guy that helps with that. But it's literally every little thing to do. Join a chamber of commerce, look into networking groups. A lot of building a business like this is going to be networking and who you know. And it might not be the person that brings you an account, but they might know somebody who can bring that mover, that apartment complex, property manager, whoever that might be. So that's really the premise behind the playbook, is to give you those tasks to be working on, so that all of a sudden you're excited. Your website's live. You're out getting orders. The bins arrive. You can start actually fulfilling the orders. And then you're like, oh, my business isn't even 10% set up. So we get that out to you upon joining and paying the license fee, so that you can start setting that stuff up. I feel like you had one other question built into that I'm forgetting
Um,
from the playbook. Oh, ribbon cutting.
Ribbon cutting. Yes.
Yeah. So when you buy into a franchise, if you guys have ever looked in, and if you're looking into, these licensing podcasts, my guess is at some point you've looked into franchising. When you look at their startup cost, right, you will see a line item for grand opening. And it's a huge number. It's usually 20, 30,000. Why? Because you're going to fly two executives into your location on your dime. You're going to put them up in a hotel. You're going to feed them. You're going to wine and dine them. And it's fluffed. It doesn't cost 20 grand, but that's what they're going to charge you. With licensing, everything we do is optional, right? And we don't have a line item. But I made a decision and a commitment early on that any licensee that comes on board, highly recommend joining the Chamber of Commerce, at least for the first year. Get in and meet some of those high profile business owners in your community, let them know that you're there. But then that allows us to set up a ribbon cutting. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Jeff, how can I do a ribbon cutting? I don't have a storefront. Every Chamber of Commerce has a room in their building that they do ribbon cuttings for businesses that don't have storefronts. We schedule that. I fly in typically on a Monday. We'll do a ribbon cutting on Tuesday, and I'll fly out Wednesday night. So I'm there for 2 days on my dime, not yours. And I encourage you, because the ribbon cutting is a 15-minute thing that, you can get some pictures and social media and maybe some print advertising off of that. But the truth is, I'm coming in, I want you to have the calendar loaded with meetings, real estate agents, teams, and offices, moving companies, apartment complexes, property managers, as many as you can before my flight leaves. And I'll go on those with you. You can see me firsthand how we pitch the Green Bin partnership. It's usually a 15 to 20-minute conversation. By the time I leave town, you'll be like, I don't need Jeff at another meeting. It's that simple.
Good. Simplicity important. I mean, I think anybody that's listening who's done any type of moving, and I've helped people move, and it's always a mad scramble to get boxes. And when you go to rent a truck, they have boxes there and the price is, ridiculous. But,
Yeah.
How come these moving companies aren't renting bins?
Yeah.
Or let's talk about that if you would.
I'm going to start with, we kind of went down this road a little bit ago, but I didn't get there, is our commercial orders are the most profitable. Okay. We've rented to FBI, Phoenix and Tucson field office, Microchip, Northrop Grumman, Catholic diocese, Catholic charities, some large, and they're hugely profitable. I mean, we're talking $2,000 to $3,000 price tags at 80% profit margin. Hard to get into those, and they need us a lot less often than people who are moving, right? It's usually they're painting and carpeting, redoing their carpeting. So that commercial space is a good one to get into. Remind me of your question, John. There's a
Well, just
reason why I want.
yeah, the moving companies
Oh,
renting
the moving
boxes.
companies.
Yeah.
So there's a couple moving companies here in Phoenix that do the totes. They're all beat up. They don't care about the look and the cleanliness because they only offer it to their large commercial clients. It's the only time they'll offer it. The truth is they want to sell cardboard because they're selling it at 100% markup. I won't get too deep into this. This will be something we talk about when you come on board as a licensee, but just know this, they're going to tout to you that they get 100% markup. And I have enough knowledge now to where I can kind of put them in their place and remind them they don't have 100% markup. They do, but they don't have 100% profit margin. They have to pay a guy or gal to go deliver those, which means they all have one of these little vans. So they now have to purchase a vehicle. They got to insure it. They got to put gas in it. Let us do all that overhead that we already do. They got to buy cardboard. Now we have some moving companies that have partnered with us simply because they were selling cardboard for the profit margin and they were getting sick of the clients calling back saying, when are you going to come pick the cardboard up? And the guy's like, I'm too nice to tell them no, but I can't. I have to remind them, you bought the cardboard, you didn't rent it. I need to partner with you simply so I don't have to go pick up another cardboard box or feel bad saying no. So the employees love it because it's very efficient to load the bins into a moving truck versus cardboard and having to worry about how they stack them. But the owners still have in their mind that the cardboard and the markup is better. So that's where we come in with the rev share.
Yeah. No, it's
Hey,
beautiful.
we're taking cardboard sales out of your pocket. You're losing some revenue. I don't know. My guess is I've tried to pencil it out. My guess is their profit margin on that when it's all said and done is less than 20%. I can put them on a 10% rev share on something they don't even lift a finger on. So,
It's a no-brainer for the moving company to work with you.
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, green bin, and I see the amount of interest out there of people in this business, the green movement, it makes sense. Cardboard boxes, you got to find a place, once you empty them out, where to store them, where to get rid of them, and who to pass them on to. It's just people are kind of done with that. So I see green bin is really the right fit for, a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are looking for a simple, low-cost entry. Thinking ahead, Jeff, and we've covered a lot of ground here in a short period of time, but where do you see Green Bin, Kathy Arlen, in 5 years?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to picture because both me and you, we have some lofty goals. In excuse me, in 5 years, I hope we're somewhere between 50 to 100 locations open and running so that we can get that nationwide network going, which helps everybody make more revenue. All my decisions in this business are based on, you've talked a lot about barrier of entry of getting in. That's part of it, keeping the cost low. But the secondary piece to it is allowing people to make money and be profitable at a high level to where this can be something that provides for their family. That's what keeps me up at night. How do I bring more value that generates more revenue and more take-home pay
Mm.
for the owner operator? So that's my hope and wish of 5 years from now of 50 to 100 locations has nothing to do with selling licenses. It's all about that means all of us individually are making more money on individual bin sales.
No, it's that makes sense. And I love Green Bin, Kathy Arlen. I've enjoyed working with you and really establishing the brand nationwide. Um, if you would tell people where to find Green Bin if they're
Yeah.
interested. Yeah.
And before I do that, John, thank you as well. It's been a great journey for 2 years, and we've learned a lot together, even myself about my own business, right? So that's the cool part. But you can go to rentgreenbin.com. We have information on there. You can go to greenbinlicensing.com for more detailed information about the licensing opportunity. But if you just want to hop on and kind of see how the website's built, get that firsthand knowledge of what we just talked about probably 20, 25 minutes ago of the user experience, jumping in, picking your package, scroll through there, read through how it works. And one thing we didn't even talk about is our partnership with One Tree Planet.
Ooh.
That's another opt-in for licensees. It's not something that's forced on you, but for every order, we give $1 to One Tree Planet, which plants one tree. And you can let them pick where that needs to go, or you can pick the geographical location of where you would prefer your trees to be planted. So that's just something we do to give back as well.
No, it's a great way to give back, and appreciate, Jeff, everything that you've done. You're very passionate about the business. You care about the licensees. You really want to see them succeed. You do everything in your power to do that. Ultimately, it comes down to the entrepreneur just taking the tools, the knowledge, the know-how that you've learned through the years and putting that to work. So appreciate all you've done. And any last words?
I think that's all I have. We appreciate you tuning in and watching this. Hopefully this is a green bin Kathy Ireland is of interest to you, and we'll see you on a Zoom call meet and greet with John and I in the near future. Would love it.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.
You bet.